who is the new Iron Maiden drummer and why has Steve Harris chosen him to replace the legendary Nicko McBrain behind the kit? Well, here is why. Native to Suffolk, England, which is located just over an hour drive from Steve's birthplace, Simon Dawson actually has more connections to Iron Maiden than may seem at first. And he's definitely much more than just a British Lion drummer. Simon's musical career started back in the 1980s, and during the past 40 years he performed in a dozen of bands, of which we'll talk in a moment, making him a rather versatile drummer. Yet his first major act was the new wave of British heavy metal band Deep Switch, formed in 1984, with whom Simon performed under the nickname Simon Dawson, and managed to release 2 demos and a debut album, 9 Inches of God, in 1986, which, although in all honesty did not help the band break through internationally, still managed to grab the attention of Tommy Vance and Radio 1's rock show, which back then was a pretty big deal. By the way, all these and a bunch of other rare videos and photos, as always, will be available on my Patreon page via the link in the pinned comment and the description to this video. And I know that I don't say it enough, so thank you, patrons. But anyways, in addition to Deep Switch, in 1986, Simon briefly played in a band Chariot, which, although wasn't too significant for his career, yet we should all remember, as it will be this band which will indirectly help him get the gig with Iron Maiden almost 40 years later. But for now, after Deep Switch fell apart, in 1989 Simon joins a highly popular back then British pop rock band, The Outfield, replacing Alan Jackman. And by the way, if this band's name sounds familiar to you, it's because it most likely is, as they are responsible for writing a bunch of worldwide hits, including this one. And together with The Outfield, Simon released a bunch of records and of course toured major arenas, including in the United States. The craziest thing is that technically he has actually remained a member of The Outfield all the way until 2009, although of course during that 20-year tenure he also played in a lot, and I mean a lot, of other bands. In 1994, Simon Dawson helps to form the project which would eventually connect him to Steve Harris and Iron Maiden, as he was among the founding members of a band Deeds, later renamed as Dirty Deeds, of which we spoke before on the show. As in case you don't know, it was formed by nobody else but Tony Newton and Pete Franklin, who previously played together with Simon in Chariot! And yes, that same Tony Newton, who is current bassist of the band KK's Priest, formed by the legendary Judas Priest guitarist KK Downing. And yes, that same Tony Newton, who also happens to be an engineer and a producer of quite a lot of Iron Maiden and British Lion releases from the past years. Don't you think I'm a savior? Don't you think I'm a savior? In fact, Dirty Deeds were actually managed by nobody else but Steve Harris himself, after being signed to Steve Harris's Beast Records, and even more. Steve Harris liked this band so much that even before Dirty Deeds managed to release their debut album, as by then they only had their 1994 demo recorded together with Simon, the boss has already taken them on the road together with Iron Maiden, opening for Maiden pretty much all across Europe. And even though Simon was later on replaced by Dave Camille of Tank, still, it is quite clear that it has been way more than just 12 years in British Lion that Steve Harris has known the band's new live drummer. Oh, and by the way, do you know who else played in Dirty Deeds? Someone who, just like you, likes watching this channel.
I watch your channel all the time.
Oh, and he also happens to be a guitar player in one of the greatest heavy metal bands on the planet. In 1995-ish, Simon Dawson joins a Manchester-based thrash groove metal band Dearly Beheaded. By the way, one of the coolest acts in his career. And together with Dearly Beheaded, Simon gets a major record deal with Music for Nations Records, after which the band releases the album Temptation in 1996 and Chamber of One a year later. And although, in my opinion, both of those records are actually pretty cool, the band sadly did not get the recognition Music for Nations wanted, at least right away, resulting in the label dropping Dearly Beheaded and them eventually disbanded that same year. Now, just to clarify, here I'm talking only about some of the most important acts for every Iron Maiden fan to get to know Simon and his background a little bit better. But in addition to all those, even throughout the 1990s, when he was already quite busy, as you can see, he'd been briefly taking part in a bunch of other smaller projects in various genres of rock and metal, including some progressive rock acts, like for example Fifth Season, which would eventually help him become the versatile drummer he actually is. In the early 2000s, Simon joins a slightly heavier band, The Void, immediately starting to get traction, and with whom in 2004 he's gotten the chance to open a stage at the Download Festival after winning the viewers' votes on Scuzz TV. Yet, in all honesty, I have no idea what happened to this band after that. So if any of you do, please let us know in the comments, as back in the day they were actually considered to be rather prominent modern metal act with a very bright future. And as I said before, pretty much simultaneously, Simon sits behind the kit in a bunch of other musical projects. Like, for example, drumming on the Air Race album Back to the Start, or the Dead Cell Communion, which was formed by Danny Finch in late 2014, and whom Simon knew through playing together in an early incarnation of a symphonic gothic groove metal band, Devilment, with someone called Danny Filth on vocals. Yet, of course, the biggest event in Simon's professional career, well, at least before joining Iron Maiden, was receiving a call from Steve Harris back in 2012 and being asked to join his then newly reformed band British Lion. And here's the craziest thing: since 2013, British Lion has actually played live together as a band every year, including the pandemic years of 2020 and 2021. And Simon Dawson actually went up on stage together with Steve Harris and the rest of the band 235 times since then. Which, if you think about it, is a crazy number, and which of course means that Steve Harris himself feels very comfortable building a stable rhythm section together with Simon. And here's the thing: since the band's announcement that Simon will replace Nicko as a drummer with Iron Maiden during their live performances, at least as of next year. Actually, if we read the announcement carefully, we don't 100% know what will happen after that. But anyways, since that announcement, quite a lot of fans have been asking themselves, why did Steve Harris decide to choose Simon to join him in Iron Maiden? As many people expected that it would be Joe Lazarus who would replace Nicko in case if he ever decides to leave the band. Including, by the way, Joe's father, but that I guess is a topic for a completely different video. But the truth is that looking at Simon's background, we can see that he is actually one of the most diverse drummers out there. Throughout his career, he literally was able to perform in any kind of band you can possibly imagine, starting with a straight-up pop band and ending with the rather heavy groove and thrash metal project. And if you listen to the recordings in each of those bands, someone was able to do it perfectly, both adapting to the style required to perform that particular style of music and bringing something unique of his own at the same time. And here's the thing: I'm not a drummer myself, so I feel like I have no right to hold a, proper conversation about Simon's abilities. I simply think that I might not know enough about it. But what I do know for sure is that Steve Harris knows what he's doing. And the past couple of days did show us that Iron Maiden do understand that the replacement of Nicko McBrain at this stage in the band's career is a huge deal for everyone, both in Iron Maiden and outside of the band, meaning us, loyal Iron Maiden fans. And Steve, knowing that, would never dare to invite someone he is not 100% comfortable with and whom he doesn't 100% trust, especially for the band's upcoming 50th anniversary tour. So all we Iron Maiden fans can do today is simply trust in Steve Harris's and Iron Maiden's judgment, and of course welcome Simon to the Iron Maiden family. Although it looks like he actually kinda has been a part of it for quite a lot of years.
We are blood brothers!
But anyways, hope this video was rather helpful for you to understand the background of Simon Dawson. So now, please let us know what you guys personally think about Iron Maiden's decision to invite Simon to be their live drummer for the upcoming tour. I'm actually really curious to find out. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And just as a reminder, only around 30% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to the Metal Pilgrim channel. So if you still haven't done so yet, I would really appreciate it if you would consider doing it right now. Thank you for watching, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!